Elkwood was a place that didn't change much, but everything started on the night of the blizzard. Thomas Becker, once a strong man of the wild, now a quiet soul wrapped in solitude, heard the faint howl of a pup lost in the snow, driven by instinct and something deeper, perhaps a longing to feel needed again. He followed the sound into the forest. When he found the pup, it was barely alive. Its tiny ribs showed through its fur, its blue eyes half closed. Thomas wrapped the creature in his coat and carried it home, whispering softly as if to comfort it. Back at his cabin, Thomas fed the pup warm milk, dried its fur and tucked it in by the fire. He didn't name it yet. He wasn't sure if it would live, but the pup fought. Through the night, he whimpered, then breathed easier, and by morning, his eyes opened fully, blue, wild, alive. Days passed, then weeks. Thomas kept the pup fed, warm, and safe. He built a small bed near the fireplace. The wolf began to gain strength. He limped at first, then stood. His tail wagged awkwardly when Thomas came near. He followed him through the cabin, nose to boot, like a shadow. Thomas named him Ash, after the flecks of grey in his fur and the fireplace that saved his life. The townspeople, curious about Thomas' new companion, stopped by more often. Children left bits of food by the porch. Even old friends who hadn't visited in years came just to see the pup who lived. Ash became part of the town before he ever walked its streets. Ash wasn't like other dogs. His body grew faster, stronger, more agile. His instincts were sharper, his reactions quicker. He could feel storms before they came. He watched deer in silence without moving a muscle. He learned commands, but often did things his own way, and somehow, that worked too. But he wasn't wild either. He knew Thomas, trusted him, protected him. As spring thawed the snow, Ash began to roam outside more. He'd disappear into the trees for an hour, sometimes two, but he always came back. The townspeople started seeing him at the edge of the woods, watching children walk home from school, or chasing away foxes from chicken coops, then vanishing before anyone could say thanks. Ash was a mystery, a guardian. That summer, strange things began happening in Elkwood. Livestock went missing. Shadows moved in the woods at night. A hunter spotted a large animal with glowing yellow eyes deep in the forest. Fear returned to the town. Some said a road bear was near. Others said it was something worse, something unnatural. Thomas, now walking daily with Ash, noticed how the pup had become alert, more serious. He would stop and stare into the trees as if hearing voices Thomas couldn't. One evening, Ash refused to return home. He sat at the forest's edge, staring into the dark, unmoving. Thomas stayed with him all night. In the morning, they found footprints, large, clawed, and fresh, not far from where they had sat. It wasn't a bear. It was wolves. Ash's old pack had returned. Only this time, they weren't just passing through, they were hunting. One by one, animals in Elkwood began disappearing. The mayor called for traps. Hunters cleaned their rifles. Thomas feared for Ash, not just his safety, but his soul. What if he was drawn back to them? What if they called to something wild inside him that Thomas couldn't hold back? One night, Ash didn't come home. Thomas searched. He called, no answer. For 2 days, Ash was gone. On the third night, just before dawn, Thomas awoke to growls outside his cabin. He opened the door and froze. Ash stood between Thomas's cabin and 3 full-grown wolves, ears back, teeth bared, protecting the only family he had left. The wolves growled, one lunged, and Ash fought. Not to kill, but to protect. The fight was fierce. Thomas could do nothing but yell and shine lights and bang pots, desperate to scare them off. When it was over, the wolves retreated into the forest. Ash stood bruised and bleeding, but victorious. Thomas fell to his knees, arms around the pup who had chosen him. The next day, the town met. Some still wanted to lay traps. But when they saw Ash limping through the town square, children petting him, townsfolk offering him food, their fear melted. They realized the wolves had come and gone, but one of them had stayed, chosen them, defended them. Ash wasn't just a pup anymore, he was a symbol. Months passed. Seasons turned. Ash healed. Thomas smiled more. The townsfolk told stories of the wolf who protected the town, of the old ranger who rescued him, of how the bond between man and beast reminded them that nature wasn't the enemy. Ash grew larger, sleek, powerful. He led children home from school, herded lost sheep, barked at storms before they arrived. Elkwood became known for its guardian wolf. And Thomas, he was no longer alone. Not really. Every morning, he woke to pause at his door. Every evening, he sat by the fire with a friend who reminded him that even in the coldest storms, something good could find its way to your door. Years later, when Ash was older and his muzzle grey, a visitor came to Elkwood. A wildlife researcher, curious about the stories. He asked about the dog who acted like a wolf, or the wolf who lived like a dog. Thomas only smiled and said, "He's neither. He's just Ash. And he saved us more than we saved him." That winter, a new storm came, strong, fast, merciless. But in the heart of Elkwood, near a cabin where firelight flickered in the windows, a blue-eyed wolf stood watch by the porch, keeping the dark at bay. And somewhere deep in the woods, the wolves no longer came too close. They remembered the one who chose differently.